Do you want to know how parental conflict affects children? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about parental conflict and what that does to our children. In this video, we're going to take a little bit of time answering the question what parental conflict really does to children, how they are affected. I do have a whole other video about just that topic though. The topic is very similar to what this one is. And so we're going to launch into after that what you can do about that, how you can change your environment so that parents hopefully don't have as much conflict, and if there has been a situation where there's been parental conflict or maybe other such things like micromanaging and such, what can you do about it to fix things for your family? When parents fight, the child's relationship with the parent alters. So we all have a relationship with each other, and it's one-sided. The way that you think about me right now is your relationship to me. The way I'm thinking about who I'm talking to right now is my relationship to you. Both sides of the relationship are unique, even though they do come together at a certain point and hopefully create some synergy where both of us can feel understood and even help each other. When a husband and a wife or two partners fight with each other, and those partners belong to the child, because the child has claim upon father and mother, the child experiences a lot of stress. The child has worry and concern. Anxiety levels can go up. They can start to withdraw from the parents because they don't trust. The child just automatically trusts that mother and father are going to get along and sort stuff out. Mother and father are the most stable people in the child's life. And if mother and father cannot sort things out, the child doesn't even know how to process that because they expect it. They expect that security to always be there. Now, I know that doesn't always happen for everybody all the time, and there can be some difficult circumstances that a person has to go through, and we have to help a person learn how to go through hardships if that's the case. But do we need to stay with the parental conflict? No, we don't need to. Now, for a person to change their behavior or to have a change of heart, which is really what is required to have self-government, it is a choice. You can't do it to another person. So the only way for the parental conflict to fully stop is for each side of the relationship to decide that they are going to hold themselves responsible for their own behaviors. They are not going to make excuses or blame other people anymore, even if the other person in the relationship is behaving poorly. They are going to choose to focus their attention on reform on themselves. That's going to be the main thing. Other things that can happen to our children is they can decide that they don't want to tell us stuff, because if we can't tell each other things and have it turn out okay, how do they know if they tell you something vulnerable or something bad that they've done that it's going to actually be okay? So they're losing a lot of trust when they see that you don't have trusting relationships with other people around you. They may actually even start getting stuck in a gossip thing where they start playing you against each other. So, the child's talking to dad about mom, and then the child's talking to mom about dad, trying to play favorites when needed. Sometimes the child might try to serve everybody and act like everything's okay, and just to get it to all go away. They even may take a self-sacrificing approach where they start taking the blame for things like the parents fighting and arguing with each other. So we have to be really careful. There's a lot of deep processing that children do. Their prefrontal cortexes are not fully developed yet. And so the way that they are processing that conflict may not be something that you can fully anticipate. Probably one of the biggest things that can happen is they could choose not to trust other relationships in their life and not open up to anybody. This could lead to a lot of isolation. If husband and wife or mother and father of the child get along with each other, discuss with each other fine, they spend time with each other, the child feels like everything is good in their life, and they can share and talk to anybody, and they can solve their problems, even if there's a few bumps along the way with problem solving as well. So what do we do about it? If you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know that everything on this channel is all about self-government, teaching self-government. So that means that every person understands the cause and effect of any given situation, possesses a knowledge of their own behaviors so that they can control them. So this means that they actually focus on self-control and on controlling their own behaviors. This is very important for a person to feel completely free. If you're always blaming somebody else, which oftentimes people do when they are in conflict with each other, they don't ever feel free. They always feel worried and fearful that something's going to happen to them next and that it will destroy their freedom. When we recognize our freedom comes from inside, we feel empowered. So what can you do if you've been fighting? It's the same thing that you would do if maybe you've had problems with micromanaging. Maybe one parent is micromanaging another. Maybe another parent is not feeling attached to the child. Or maybe the children are starting to do pushback against the parents. Whenever there is a problem with the family dynamic and it's not functioning properly, we need to bring ourselves back to the teaching self-government basics. One of those teaching self-government basics is, how do we see ourselves? Who are we in the family? Who are we in the relationship? So what is our role? I actually have an entire book about roles called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. It's a story of a family whose roles are not identified properly. They're not in the right place. People are not on the same page. Husband and wife are not on the same page. The children are pushing back. They're not willing to help out. They're disengaged a lot of the time. It is a problem. And you see what they do to get their roles right. The type of conversations that you can have with your family are the same conversations that have happened here in this book. So I highly recommend that. Once we get our roles correct, then we can move on with some of our skill development. Now, before I leave the topic of roles, I just want to make sure that it's clear roles and responsibilities are two different things. Someone could have a responsibility to make dinner, and another person could have a responsibility to do the dishes, but that isn't their role. A mother's role is to be a nurturer. This is one of her many things, but she is a nurturer. That doesn't necessarily mean she has to make the dinner, but to nurture is to cultivate, to provide for, to strengthen, to correct. This is what mother does. She creates this environment that feeds the child. There's that nourishment that happens there with the entire environment, not just the food. Even though, of course, initially mom's body is literally feeding the child, right? In that nurturing aspect. So if we can understand mother, father, if our children can understand their roles, it sets us all free. We can communicate with each other a lot better. So let's talk about this communication. When we are communicating with each other, it is important that we deliberately decide how we want to do that. If we make a deliberate communication plan or a deliberate problem-solving plan, then we are going to get rid of those occasions where we might fall into power struggles, micromanaging, overly controlling, having conflict, getting aggressive, maybe even physically aggressive with other people. We don't need to go to those places of power struggle, because all of that is manipulative. All of that is power struggle. We don't have to go to those places if we are able to get ourselves to a place where we have a plan. We know how to follow through with the plan. We know how to recognize when something is not going right with the plan and how to course correct. That whole process is the process of self-government. And that's what I teach on my website, Teaching Self-Government. That's what's all over this channel here. On my website, you can find all kinds of trainings, courses, books, helps, and things to help you learn the skills and principles of self-government. But right now, I'd like to just share a few of those with you. You might want to start with the 4 basic skills. So these children's books here teach skills for children. Now, while that sounds super convenient to just teach the children and call it good, It is self-government, which means there are parent skills as well. Now, these skills are adult skills, so everyone should learn them, but they are absolutely magical, it almost seems like, when you start using them with your children. If you don't have the parent skills, they'll fall apart after a little bit, so you've got to make sure you get those too. But these 4 children's books, London LaRae Says Okay, Porter Earns a Quarter, Big Win for Quinn, and Paige Takes the Stage, teach the 4 basic skills: following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. You can learn more about all of these skills here on this channel in additional videos. So let's talk a little bit about those 5 skills that the parents need. We're not going to be able to go into tons of detail on all of them, but I'd like to just touch on one. This one skill will actually change the parent relationship with each other, as well as change the relationship with our children. This is the skill pre-teaching. Basically, what it means is that you talk about what you're going to talk about before you talk about it. This is called meta-communication. It's very high-level communication. It is the highest level of communication, meaning you're going to be the most effective when you engage in meta-communication. So what does that look like in a husband and wife relationship? Let's say you have parents who are in conflict with each other. It would look like the parents saying, okay, what skills do we want to teach our children? What skills do we want to know as husband and wife? How do we get on the same page with this? They might even take a training. I do these 3-day trainings. They're called parenting mastery trainings. The 3-day trainings are the best way for husband and wife to get on the same page. It's fast, and they get practice with me and my team. We keep them really small, so they're personal. You can find information out about those on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. But what the parents do is they make the same plan to use the same skills. That doesn't mean their personalities are going to be the same. That doesn't mean their tones are always going to be exactly identical with each other, because men and women are different, and we have to expect that. But it does mean that they'll be able to support each other because they have pre-planned how to do it. And then if they have regular ongoing conversations about how they're doing with their plan, then that's going to lead to even greater success. Oftentimes parents start fighting when they start thinking, I'm doing it the right way, you're doing it the wrong way, instead of saying, how can we support each other to both do it the way that we have planned? Which means that it's right for everybody. That's what needs to happen. The same situation occurs with children. So instead of micromanaging your children, what you ought to do is you ought to say, this is what's coming up. So in a few moments, we're going to go into the grocery store. In the grocery store, we need to follow instructions. Remember, the 5 steps to following an instruction are to look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. If you choose to follow instructions, this will be the positive. If you choose not to follow the instructions, this will be the negative. Let's practice following an instruction to make sure we've got that exactly right. Then we praise them for their practice of following an instruction. We go into the store, and then we assess with them through the process, or maybe afterward, how they did at following instructions. They earn a positive if they did well, or we might have to do a corrective teaching, which I haven't talked about here yet, if they struggle with some things. So we pre-teach ahead of time so everybody knows what's happening before it happens. This decreases anxiety, increases predictability, and success. There are so many more things that I could teach you about self-government. I highly recommend working on calmness first. So there is a Calm Parenting Toolkit that is located on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. Right now, that Calm Parenting Toolkit is free. It is not a full course, it's a mini course, but it will be a perfect stepping stone to get you ready to do all of the skills and principles of self-government as you focus on getting more calm yourself and learning how to help other people get calm too. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.